you started in clinical medicine, but now you're doing business advisement and life coaching. Like that's such a strange sequence of events. But that's what is so amazing about all of our journeys is it is the zigzag. That's how we learn and grow and make progress. And I think it's oftentimes a surprise because people are expecting the recipe book just go in this order and then everything will become perfect, but it doesn't work out that way. And so I think embracing the journey and embracing the zigzag is typically the surprise.
Welcome to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. We will explore the perks and also the behind-the-scenes challenges of figuring out what to share. I'm your host, Reme Mancera, a personal brand strategist who loves finding the story connectors that illustrate the benefits of what you offer. And by the way, you don't need a Hollywood style for that. In case you ever wonder, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling. Hey there! I can't wait for you to listen to today's episode. Our guest is Kasey D'Amato, an accomplished business advisor and executive life coach with 20 years of experience across multiple industries. She's on a mission to impact 10 million entrepreneurs, showing them that building their dream lives is more achievable than they might think. In this episode, Kasey talks about how she embraced her zigzag journey to success and experienced the power of combining skills from different areas of expertise. She explains how she shares her vulnerable moments after reflecting on them and finding actionable steps from those experiences. She aims to impact and inspire others, knowing that even a single person's transformation is worth it all. One of Kasey's pivotal moments was realizing that she couldn't do it all alone. She understood the importance of surrounding yourself with what she calls the 3 levels of who. For her, defining your own version of success is crucial. She encourages us to consider not just financial success, but also work-life balance, relationships, and overall fulfillment. Don't miss this episode and all the valuable insights Kasey shares. Let's get started. Hello, Kasey. Welcome to Who Cares About My Story. I am delighted to have you here. Thank you for accepting this invitation.
Yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
So I can't wait to start. I have already told a bit in the intro, but please tell us who you are and what you do.
Yeah, my name's Kasey D'Amato, and I am a concierge business advisor and executive life coach. So a hybrid between business advisement, business mentoring, and executive life coaching for high performance individuals, mostly small business owners or entrepreneurs.
Nice. And how did you get there? What's your story?
Yeah, that's a good question. We all have our own unique stories, right? How we got here. It's always an interesting, journey for each one of us. So, my background, I started as a dermatology PA, dermatology physician assistant, and I practiced dermatology for 17 years in Los Angeles, California. And I always had the entrepreneurial bug, and I had launched an aesthetic division, and then I started a skincare company. That was my first big venture. I had a little bit of a consulting business I did. I helped other medical professionals and I started along this big journey. And in doing that, I learned a lot about digital marketing. I learned about building a team. And I also learned about the big struggles that we have as entrepreneurs that I really didn't have any idea until I went on my own journey and realized how challenging those struggles can be. And I hit some turbulent waters in that business. And, there were times we were really struggling and we were operating at a negative from a cash flow standpoint. And I had some business advisors and mentors at that time that helped me not only turn the business around from operating at an extreme negative to then becoming cash flow positive, but also helped me make some strategic life decisions. And that's what made me very passionate about becoming a business advisor and executive life coach, because so many of us find ourselves in these uncharted waters and we find ourselves alone in the times of troubles. And we're trying to fix the business and fix our personal life because they're very much intertwined when we're business owners. So that's what really started. I eventually exited that company. We eventually sold that company and it became my passion, just like it was as a service provider, as a medical professional, to help others. It's my passion to help others along their journey with their entrepreneurship, their small business, navigating both the business growth or maybe even potential exit, as well as building that perfect lifestyle for themselves.
I love that. And I know a lot about how to find the balance and the harmony between work and life, and especially when you are a solopreneur or a personal brand that your face is the face of the company. It's like, yeah, there is a certain challenges around that specifically.
Definitely. Definitely.
Yeah. And I listened to a past interview where you were answering about who was something that you would tell to your younger self, and was about how to please don't do it alone. You don't need to do it
Yes.
alone. Can you
Yes.
elaborate a bit more about that thought?
Yes, that is what I would tell my younger self is that, I wanted to take on the world and I had all these big ideas and in doing that, which was exciting and motivating, and it's great to dream big, and I'm all about dreaming big. But there are things that we don't know. And just like my prior life when I was practicing clinical medicine, it was all about knowing what I didn't know. And in entrepreneurship, I think that there were things that I didn't realize I didn't know. And then when I hit those roadblocks, all of a sudden I felt very alone, very defeated, very overwhelmed, burning out. I just felt like I was at rock bottom and just what was I going to do? And in bringing on mentors, advisors, team members, people at different levels. I talk about three levels of who's, a team of people that are mentors and advisors or coaches or consultants, people that are experts to help you, people that are surrounding you, that are collaborative so that you're cross promoting and you're sharing experiences and going through it together. And then a team of people below you. And I think I didn't recognize the importance early enough. So that's what I would tell my younger self is that those three levels of people of support is what's critical when those to avoid those complicated times in business and those challenging times. If you have the right teams of who's, the right three levels of who's of people, you can pretty much navigate anything. And it might be a pivot, it might be an exit, it might be a small changes or big changes, but you have support to help you through those, and it completely takes away that stress and overwhelm. I shouldn't say takes away 100%, but it diminishes it enough so that you can see clearly about what your clear vision is. You have complete clarity on what your goals are for your business, for your life, and then the decision making process becomes very clear. And you're no longer drowning alone, feeling like you're on this isolated island, not knowing what to do or who to turn to and how to solve this problem. And you're grasping at straws and flying by the seat of your pants. You don't have to do that. And once I surrounded myself with the right people, it became so clear the right direction for the business, the right direction for my life. And, fast forward now, I've made significant changes that allowed myself to have a life of, what I consider freedom and sort of the perfect life blueprint. Is it the way I thought I was going to get here? 100% not. I didn't get here the way I thought I would. But ultimately, bringing people into my ecosystem that could help guide me make the decisions, the very hard, challenging decisions, but I had guidance in making those, brought me to the life that I have now, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, that's amazing. And I love that three levels of support. I love that the way it's explaining is so clear. And in particular, about sharing your personal brand story, have you faced any unexpected challenges?
Yes. So I think, sharing your brand story is another space that you could feel alone. Here we are again, like in this area, we're being very vulnerable, sharing things about our own experiences in our brand story, some things that are worked very well and some great successes. And if you're sharing your story in a way that's impactful, you're also sharing the things that are not so glamorous and they're not so successful. So if you're sharing your full story, you can feel vulnerable and alone. And so here we are again, back in that place going, wow, should I share this one story? Should I not share this story? Will it help people? Will it not help people? And all of a sudden we're back in that place in the entrepreneurship and the business journey where we're feeling alone on that island and we're thinking, what do I do? Do I talk about this in my messaging? Do I not talk about this? So I think that's something that we all navigate personal brand is new for me. I decided to venture on building out my personal brand just about a year ago, so about 12 months. So it's a work in progress. I call it multiple iterations. It's a work in progress, deciding what to share, how to share it, how much to share, how often to share. Is it annoying to people? Is it helpful to people? And I think those are things that everybody who's developing a personal brand has to navigate those waters for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is a certain point where it's that you are questioning yourself, even if you have been doing that for a while. Again, there is some kind of pivot or there are some change in your business, and you are again like, how I do this, how I process this change, what I share, what I not. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And have you ever worried about oversharing from your personal life, let's say, how you keep your privacy?
Good question. So I'm pretty much an open book. I share a lot of things. My social content is very unfiltered. It's very raw. But one thing that I've found helps me, I find that every time I share a vulnerable story, it helps somebody. And even if it helps one person, then it's worthwhile to me. And one thing that I've found that helps me, and I hope helps other people, is I'm open, very open about sharing vulnerable stories, but I like to share it when I have had a moment to reflect, to think about the process of how I handled that vulnerable state of mind or that vulnerable encounter. So that once I've thought about it and I can think about, okay, what were the steps I went through when I was at that time? And so then I can help other people. So I like to share the story so that, yes, other people feel like they're not alone, but also they have some actionable steps, some real tips or tools that I used. So not only can they feel like they're not alone and other people have gone through this, but they also know or have some ideas of maybe what could help them, what I did next to help myself, and maybe those same things could help them. So those are some things that I'm intentional about sharing stories. I'm very open to sharing stories, but I like to share them when I can process the next steps that I did to navigate around that vulnerable state, because then I feel like I can help even more people.
I love that because with my clients, I when I work with them, we are finding like these moments of their personal brand stories, and also what is the lesson that they get from that moment, because that's really building how you look at things in your life, in your business, in your approach to work. So it's like not just the moment, and that's also some way of dealing with the privacy levels, because you can share something in a no superficial level, but then going deeper into the lesson that you get from there.
Yes, 100%. Because if you share it from the superficial level, or even if you're being vulnerable and you're sharing something emotional, that helps other people not feel alone. But still, then there's still now what? Now what to do next? So I agree with you 100% in how you work with people as well in sharing the breakthrough moment or the process or the next steps. Then it's going to be so much more impactful for so many people. And that's what it's all about, with building your personal brand. It's not about myself as a person. It's about, can my story help other people? And so that's why I'm passionate about it. I'm not a social media expert by any means, and so a lot of it is very uncomfortable from the tech standpoint of things, but I do it because if my story or something that I learned along the way can help somebody else, then that's why I do it, and that's what's so important for me.
Yeah, I love that. And thank you for sharing that, because I feel that sometimes people could think that who cares about their story? That's why it's the name of the podcast. And yeah, we can think about that in some point, but then when you turning out to thinking about the impact that can have in someone, how can inspire someone, then you can see the benefits of really sharing it. How has been your experience? Have you thought about this? Having that wondering of, who cares about my story? Should it's worth to tell it?
Yes, I think about it all the time. And especially when it comes to, the social platforms or the tech and those things that are overwhelming or coming on camera and it's a day that you're like, oh gosh, yeah, my hair doesn't look good. I feel a little bloated. I don't know if I should come on camera. And so all those things and you think, who really cares anyways? I'm overthinking this. Nobody really cares, how my hair looks, if I look bloated. And in my story that I might think is totally irrelevant might be that one story that somebody reaches out and says that message just resonated so much. And I'm thinking, oh my gosh, I just posted something on my Instagram story from my car, like, cause really casual telling a story, a client story or a personal story. And all of a sudden I'm getting a message from a whole bunch of people saying that story completely changed the way I think about my business or about my life, or I'm going to take an action right now and do something. I'm going to change a team, or I'm going to change the way I think about my business, or balance my work life, home life, whatever it might be, self care. And so that's what makes it worth it when you think nobody cares. But if one person writes back, or one person votes on something, or one person comments, then it's all worth it. Then you have made an impact on that person's life. And so with this virtual stage that we have access to when we're building our personal brand and the digital stratosphere with social media and YouTube and podcasts and all the things, um, this is a way that we can impact people and make a change for the better, even when we think that no one cares about our story, our life. People do. They don't care about how our hair looks, but and if we look bloated, but they do care about the messages of the story and the experiences that we had and how we overcame them and the tools that we can share and how they can apply it to their life and overcome their own challenges. And so I do believe that people do care, even if you have a small audience and even if you don't know anything about tech, people do care.
Mm, love that. And especially what you mentioned that when story that you tell is impacting and is making people taking action. It's like, wow, this like immediate effect of there is a change in not just they are thinking about something, but was that sign that they need for taking that extra step. So
Yes.
inspiring and meaningful, right?
Yes, definitely.
Cool.
Yes.
So I would like to know if you have, you mentioned already that you did several iterations. So there is some significant moment that you made a pivot in your business. Can you tell about specific one?
Oh my gosh, one specific moment that I made a pivot. I think the moment that sticks in my mind the most was, with my big venture, with my biggest business venture, when it really got to the point when I thought, this is really killing me. I'm having health issues. I'm having extreme anxiety. I'm not sleeping more than 5 hours a night. This is taking over my marriage. I may lose my home, or, financially, personally be impacted by what's going on. And that moment in time at rock bottom, when I realized something had to change, like I had to make changes, and I had to make changes in the team around me at all three levels. I had to make changes of my goals, my clarity on my long-term goals for my business and my personal life, and realign them. And my entire ecosystem just needed to be shaken up and resettled down. And if I didn't change things, my business was going to kill me, quite literally. And that moment in time that I realized something had to change, and in fact, everything had to change, that was the moment. And that moment was when I really discovered the three levels of who's with the people. And that is also the moment that I realized the intersection of business and life was much more intertwined than I think I recognized before. I, in the past, had worked with maybe, a business coach or somebody teach me one skill. And I think I wasn't appreciating the intersection of business and life, and how aligning the two together to grow something and make progress in both simultaneously, to build your perfect life and leave a legacy behind, was all intertwined. And I did not recognize that at the moment. I was just focused on, let's build this machine and let's make it as big as we possibly can. And I was neglecting my self-care, my family, my friends, hobbies and passions and other things that lit me up. And in doing that, it dimmed my light and my passion for business. And, everything started to struggle. And when I aligned everything back together and said, no, this is not what I want for my life. What I want for my life is time with family, time with friends, time with self-care, sleeping, 7 or 8 hours a night, and able to enjoy my life. That's what I want. And in doing that, I had to completely restructure the way I think about business, the way I think about active income and passive income, and balancing all of it, to build really the ultimate life. And that's what I became passionate about sharing with other people.
Wow, that's powerful. And I love that you bring that, how is so important to define your own version of success, because
Yes.
sometimes we are just driven by what gurus said or
Yes.
mainstream said, and then at some
Yes.
point you need to stop and realize, okay, I need to think and figure it out what is important to me, to my life,
Yeah.
the lifestyle that I want, and the business that I want. That doesn't need to
Yes.
look like any
That's
other.
right. That's right. That's right. And it probably won't. And that's what takes so long to figure out. You have all these outside influences and other leaders that are saying, build your business this way, build it this way, build it this way. And exactly to your point, until you have clarity on what you want for your life and your goals, then you will create the path and you will build your business and your life what's unique to you. It won't be the way that this guru said, or this guru or this guru. It won't be that perfect track, the perfect recipe. That was their recipe and it worked for them. And they share it, which is great, but it might not be the recipe for you. And I see that time and time and time again, that people will go down that path, but it's not the right path for them. They're not being true to themselves, and they're still feeling like this is maybe more than they wanted, or maybe it's not enough, or it's not structured in a way that feels healthy and right to them. So to your point, clarity on success is critical. The clarity on the long-term goal and the exit plan, really. What do you want this to eventually become, and that you will walk away from and be happy and proud at that moment in time of what you built, and where is it going? Will you sell it? Will you hand it down? Will it become a legacy? What will happen? What's your vision for where this is going? Both from a brand standpoint and from a financial standpoint, from a work-life balance standpoint. All of that is so critical, because all of that is the definition of success in one package, with all those different elements of your brand success, your financial success, your relationship success, all of it. So what is your ultimate success, and how do we build that roadmap to reach that? And that's what a lot of people don't realize. They think about one piece of the puzzle, but not the whole picture.
Mm. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I see how it's so important to have this big picture, and looking at overlooking everything, and see, okay, how I make everything fits together.
Yes, exactly. Exactly. It has to fit together, because the biggest, failure is being successful in business, but failing in everything else. And all of a sudden you're lonely. You don't have strong relationships. Your health has suffered, right? So then is that success? To me, no. To me, that is not success. So, how do you define success in every area of your life, and then strive to enjoy the journey, to continue to improve in each one of those areas, enjoy the process and the journey along the way, as you're working towards that ultimate goal, because it's all about the journey, right? It's not about the outcome. So it's all about enjoying the journey and having that balance and seeing that big picture.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, how have you shaped the story that you are sharing? How have you explored what elements to share? Did you get any help? How did you did how did you do it?
Yes. Oh my gosh, that's a great question. So it's still a work in progress. I do not consider myself an expert in sharing the messaging yet. My personal brand is less than a year old, so I'm still learning. So a couple things that I do. Number one is I have certain pillars that I know I want to talk about. And I have 4 to 5 pillars that I know I want to talk about and I want to share. And some of that is business related, some of that is lifestyle related, some of that is relationship related, some of that is active and passive income related, because those are all the things that I consider success and consider that what has made me happy and feel fulfilled. So those 4 to 5 pillars are concepts that I come back to and I like to share and talk about. So that's number one. Number two, sort of the point that I mentioned before, is I like to share the vulnerable moments when I have a process or actionable steps and takeaways, what I can share with other people of this moment and how I learn from it and grew from it, so that hopefully that will help other people. So that's another thing I like to share, is some sort of micro transformational moment that I went through. I like to share that as well. So those are a couple of things that with my personal brand. And have I worked with people? I have had a couple of people that have helped me. I'm doing a bit more speaking on podcasts and at events. And I've had a few people who have helped me refine the way that I share the story with the vulnerable moments and those key teaching points and takeaway, always giving some valuable takeaways, no matter what, when I'm sharing my story, so that I'm not just rambling on and I can be a bit more concise with those actionable takeaways.
Lovely. Thank you for sharing those the way that you did it. And what would you say when you are sharing some of your pieces of your story that surprises the people the most?
I think what surprises people the most is that there isn't a one size fits all path to success and fulfillment and happiness. And I think what surprises people the most is that my journey is a zigzag, and that's what most people's journeys will be, a zigzag. But in our minds, we all think it's going to be a linear path. I think it's always surprising to people to think, oh my gosh, you started in clinical medicine, but now you're doing business advisement and life coaching. Like that's such a strange sequence of events. But that's what is so amazing about all of our journeys, is it is the zigzag. That's how we learn and grow and make progress. And I think it's oftentimes a surprise because people are expecting the recipe book just go in this order and then everything will become perfect, but it doesn't work out that way. And so I think embracing the journey and embracing the zigzag is typically the surprise. Like, how people will say, how did you figure that out? How did you go from one industry to a different industry? How did you figure out how to make the change? How did you know you wanted to sell that other business? How did you know how? And it's like, you look within you. The answer is within you. Yes, you have your team of who's at the 3 levels that are guiding you, but ultimately it's your gut check. It's your core passion. You know inside you what the right path is. And yes, you're getting guidance and input from the 3 teams of who's, but ultimately it's up to you to choose the next step and make the decision and take action. And I think the surprising thing to most people is the zigzag, and that it's really you. It isn't the answers from everybody else. While it's important to have them in your ecosystem, the answer comes from within on your next step and your own path to success, fulfillment, and happiness.
Mm, yeah, that's a great point because, as you said, at the end is your trust in yourself. It's so
Yeah.
important in all the levels, even for choosing who is the people that you are bringing to your
Yeah.
team of the 3 levels. And even if you get guidance just to feel that, yeah, that feels right, or it's
Yes.
not exactly what I feel is the right move. So yeah,
Yes.
absolutely. And back to your point of the zigzag, that I love the visual element that brings that, is what I love about personal brand story is how exactly that zigzag is what is bringing the context of who you are and what is important to you and how you approach your work. Because I'm sure from your days of being a dermatologist, you are getting lessons that up to date you are using and you are bringing to your work that you do now with your clients that has absolutely nothing to do with what you did in the past. I'm
Yes.
right?
Yes, that's totally right. You use skills from, your prior life, right? You use these skills. Most of them are people skills, leadership skills, and communication skills. Those are typically the 3 skills that will carry you through your whole life. And the people skills, leadership skills, communication skills, you continue to grow and you continue to apply those in everything that you do, and those are typically the 3 skills that are going to make you successful. Um, because without communication, you can't communicate with your team, you can't communicate with your clients, you can't communicate with your community. So you have to be able to connect and communicate. And becoming a leader in your industry with your team, having that level of confidence, even though sometimes inside you don't feel confident, but putting on that coat, like owning it, owning your brand, owning this is it. I've made the decision and I'm moving forward with full confidence and conviction. So that leadership, people will follow. And so those are some of the keys in obviously the people that we talked about, to using things that you've experienced or gone through in the past life, your prior experiences and prior successes. We've all had them all the way into childhood that are related to people, communication, and leadership. Even going back to elementary school, we can think of experiences that we've had related to those three things, and we carry them through life, and we just get better and better and better at them, and they keep applying to every iteration of our journey, business and personal. And that's what helps propel us. Just keep embracing and leaning into those three things.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's so this is like a way of our audience or the people that we work with to understand our journey and understand why we are in this position and why we do the things in that way. And as you say, even if we don't have the all the time, all the confidence, you own it and we lead our the people around us. So yeah, absolutely.
Yes. Yes, definitely.
Okay, so thank you very much for all the insight that you have shared, sharing all your experience. How can people find out more about you and what you do?
Oh, yes. So my website, which is kaseydamato.com, hopefully we'll have a link here in the show notes, as well
Yeah.
as Instagram, Facebook, and LinkedIn. That's where I am the most. I personally am mostly on Instagram, but I do play around on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Gearing up to launch a YouTube channel. So that's going to be coming soon. It's not here yet. And of course, you can reach out to me via email at kaseyd@kaseydamato.com. So I've got lots of free tools on my website, both for growing your business. I also have a perfect life checklist, so you can check in with yourself to see if you are living what's true to yourself, and lots of tools on how to increase revenue in business. I'm very, very passionate about that intersection of business and life and leaving that legacy behind that you can be proud of. So I always have tools available, soon to be more videos available related to growing your business and growing your life and aligning the two. So if I can help any of you, any of your community on their journey, I'm happy to do so.
Wow, thank you very much for all these resources. We are going to, yeah, I am going to share the links so they have access and, to check it, all of that. I will do myself too, because it's always a good time to check in your intersection between life and work. So yeah, thank you for sharing that with us. Yeah, and thank you for being here. I have been so honored to have you and really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you for having me. It's my pleasure.
See you next time. Thanks for tuning in to Who Cares About My Story, the podcast on how sharing your personal brand story can impact your business. If you found this episode valuable, consider subscribing or leaving a review. Your feedback means a lot. Did something resonate with you today? Please share your thoughts on the podcast platform or on your socials. I would love to hear from you and give you a shout out. Just tag me on Instagram at Reme Mancera. I can't wait for you to meet our next guest. Until then, remember, your story is relevant and worth telling.